What happened in Israel, the horrifying massacre of Jews on October 7th, at the end of the high holiday season, is not about Israel. It's not even really about Jews. It is about Islam. The most fundamental thing that we continue to get wrong about Islamic terrorism is that it is not about its victims. It is about its perpetrators. Islamic terrorism is not about America. It is not about England. It is not about France. It is not about Israel. It is not about Australia. It is not about Canada. It is not about India. It is not about any of the countries that it targets. It is about those who commit the atrocities. In modern discourse, the left has created the concept of victim blaming. Yet when it comes to geopolitics, they insist on perpetrating victim blaming over and over again. They take seriously all the claims of the Islamic terrorists that the victims had it coming because X, Y, and Z, because imperialism, history of colonialism, resistance, oppressed. Gaza, from which Israel withdrew a long time ago, is somehow an open-air prison. And we keep falling for this nonsense, for these lies in specific cases because we refuse to see the big picture. And the big picture of Islam is that for over 1,000 years it has been dedicated to jihad. Jihad is not just something that a tiny fringe of extremists do. It is the fundamental external expression of the Islamic faith. What is Islamic exceptionalism? What does Islam have that Judaism and Christianity does not? It's not just the various rituals and scriptures that it cribbed badly from Christianity and Judaism. What makes Islam exceptional is its complete dedication to jihad, to creating a kingdom of heaven on earth in the present day, not in some future tense down the road, not in an end of days that will arrive when God decides that it should arrive, but something that can be brought about in the here and now through violence, terrorism, and war. All the horrors that we've seen perpetrated, whether by Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, Hamas, ISIS, Boko Haram in Africa, Islamic terrorist groups like that you may not even be familiar with, like Abu Sayyaf in the Philippines. All these atrocities are the expression of a desire for an Islamic world order, one that will create purity, that will eliminate all chaos, that will order the world in keeping with Allah's will. This is Islamic exceptionalism. This is why Islam was able to conquer so much of the world, because where other religions view their martyrs, Judaism and Christianity, for example, as those who died as part of refusing to give up on God, refusing to abandon their faith, martyrs in Islam, when you see Hamas supporters carrying banners in New York and DC saying, "Glory to the martyrs," who are their martyrs? Their martyrs are the terrorists who die while perpetrating atrocities, while killing non-Muslims. That is Islam. That is the Islamic faith. That is Islamic exceptionalism. What happened in Israel is no different than what's been happening in Africa, in Asia, in India, and around the world, including in Europe. It's no different than what's been happening around the world in those parts of the world that were invaded by Islam for over 1,000 years. There is a complete and perfect continuity here. When we refuse to see that, when we refuse to see the big picture, then we can get bogged down. What about the Green Lines in the 1967 Six-Day War? Well, Hamas invaded, pushed past those Green Lines, massacred left-leaning Israelis living in what they consider to be Israel proper, not the settlements, except, of course, it turns out that not only the Hamas, but their supporters, all of Israel is occupied. When they chant from the river to the sea, they are calling for the destruction of Israel and for the massacre of Jews all over Israel. Those are simple facts. They are the realities. But why are they doing this? Well, this is what they've been doing forever. The Islamic conquest is the reason why there are so many conflicts, so many terrorist campaigns, and why there's so much friction between Islamic populations in places where they conquered once upon a time, like Israel, and places they want to reconquer, like Spain, or in Europe and America, places that they are set on reconquering, initially through immigration, then through violence, then through escalating terrorism, and then through the kind of atrocities and warfare that we've seen Hamas perpetrate when they invaded Israel out of Gaza. This is part of the larger history of Islam. There is no way to negotiate out of this. American and Israeli diplomats, politicians, and generals decided that Hamas could be reasoned with because for 2 years it seemed to be keeping its bargains. And for those 2 years it was planning a horrific terrorist attack. That is just the way that things are. There can be no meaningful negotiations, there can be no meaningful truces, there can be no enduring agreements. How can you make any kind of enduring agreements with people who believe that their fundamental religious purpose, their national existence is dedicated to conquering, subjugating, and killing you? No coexistence is remotely possible under those conditions. Of course, we deny that. We do not want to deal with it, just as we did not want to deal with it during the Cold War when it came to the Soviet Union. We did not want to deal with the realities of the situation. The reality that the friendly communist next door was friendly up until the point where there would be an opportunity to wage a revolution, at which point he would kill you or make you a slave. That is the reality that we are dealing with once over again. And of course, the old communists are now allied with the Islamists because they overall share a common agenda, which is the belief that violent revolution, violent conflict, followed by totalitarian regimes, can make the world a perfect society. This is obviously in complete violation of everything that the United States stands for, that the Constitution was created for, and that is why we are a major target. It is also why Israel is a major target. But again, it is important not to dwell too much on the victims, because the reality is Islam is at war with most of the world. There is hardly a country that Islam is not at war with, including those countries that collaborate with it, like Russia and China. India is a major target. The entire Western world is a major target, but so are countries like Thailand and Burma, Myanmar. There's hardly a country that has an Islamic population nearby or in it that is not immediately a target. That is what we are up against. We are targeted because we exist. We are targeted because we are non-Muslim. We are targeted because we must be eliminated, killed, or enslaved in order to create the ideal Islamic New World Order. When we refuse to address that, we can get bogged down into historical debates. We can start debating about what happened 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Good Lord. Do you know when the Jihad dates back to? The Jihad dates back to not only long, over 1,000 years before the United States of America, never mind the rebirth of Israel. It dates back to a time when there were pagan kings on the throne, not even on the throne of England, but in the various parts of England that had not been unified yet. That's how far back all this goes. Nothing the Western world has ever done has anything to do with this. This is all about Islam. It is on Islam. It is an expression of Islam. What we are up against is Islam. And the sooner we realize that, the sooner we'll be able to fight back and save ourselves. Thank you for listening.